Hey, welcome to episode 2 of the Headrush Marshall series, everyone. This time around, we're going to be covering the JTM45, which is probably what I should have started the series off with, but I explained in the previous video on the Plexis why I didn't. So I won't go into the entire early history of the JTM45. It is the one that started it all, but you can get the entire history of Marshall from way better sources than myself. But basically, it started as a Tweed Bassman clone and quickly evolved into its own thing, especially a little bit later on when it became known as the JMP, when Marshall kind of rebranded those things. So I'll be doing a quick Bassman comparison because of that shared history and shared DNA as well. And we'll be covering a range of tones from that early blues breaker Eric Clapton thing to early AC/DC, and then the more modern way that maybe I would dial it in for my own band and my own purposes. So I won't be playing parts from that John Mayall record or anything like that, or from the early AC/DC stuff. That would just be really embarrassing on my end, and I might wind up ruining those sounds for you forever. So let's jump right in. Alright, so just a quick rig rundown of a little bit of stuff that's going on here. We have the Headrush's JTM45 or J45 amp model going on at full stock settings. Looks like everything's halfway up. My usual little bit of small plate reverb. Mix is only 10%, just a little bit of air there. For impulse responses, we are using the Leon Todd impulse responses again. The LTTV Mix 2, which is greenbacks, and the also LTTV Mix 2. Nope, so that's going to be the Marshall 412 with vintage 30s, and we're going to get those high cuts in place real quick here. 10K and 80 seems to be just about the right spot for those. So we'll take that down. All right, and this guy up to 80. Let's get that saved real quick. All right. So first I'm going to show it to you quick without my usual template stuff going on, the parametric EQ and the side comp, and at stock settings, and that sounds like this. Now, again, just to kind of shamelessly plug my template, not that I benefit from it other than knowing that some people might find this useful, but for people that haven't seen my video on my Headrush template, here are those settings really quickly on this parametric EQ. And of course, if you want to download the JTM45 rig that I have available in the links below, these template settings are going to be in there as well, and this side comp is a part of that. All right, and now this is what that sounds like with my template on. Even with my template on, which tends to make things brighter and heavily accentuate mids, this is a very woofy amp in the bass, and the big contributors to that are the normal volume, which I'm going to bring down to 25. We're going to bring the high volume up to that, but the other contributor is the bass, which we're just going to take all the way out, and then my usual Marshall thing, except with the JCMs and some of the modded stuff, is treble and mid at 100, and we are going to boost the presence slightly. So again, just to keep track of where we're at, this is with the greenback impulse response. Yeah, so that's a lot better to me. There's that bite and the note clarity. Get that woofiness out of there. If you were going for more of a an old school thing, or trying to cop that that original Clapton thing that made this famous in the form of a blues breaker, you would add bass back in, probably around 30 or 40% on that bass, just to make things a little closer to that tone, a little bit creamier. But this is pretty much where I would sit setting wise on this amp. If I was doing like a pop thing or something, or some kind of indie thing, or even classic rock, I could probably even do some hair metal with one of the boosts on, like the Klon. Right? But we're not ready for that part yet. So I'm going to show you this now with the Marshall 412 with vintage 30s in it. And we're super quiet there. So so that's cool. I would gig that tone. I'm just a sucker for vintage 30s of all kinds. So that would definitely be, if I was gigging with a JTM45 rig on the Headrush, it would be the vintage 30 impulse response. So it's not as high gain as a Plexi. This cleans up even better than a Plexi does, and Plexis already clean up pretty well. But I think because of the lower gain nature of this amp, we're able to do that even more. So this is just a reduction in guitar volume. So and that's just with guitar volume. There's tons of tones in there. So many, in fact, that I would even try some country tones with this. And I know that this is the wrong guitar totally. First of all, it's just humbuckers. I don't have a coil split or anything. These are Ibanez Infinities. And it's an Ibanez RG. This is not typically a country guitar. But just forget about all that. I'm going to get a country-esque tone anyway. So I'm going to take the volume down a little bit, probably about the halfway point. We'll leave normal where it is, presence where it is, and I'm going to scoop the mids out a little bit, probably right about 65. We'll dial the treble back just a bit, and we are going to add some bass back in, and that sounds like this. you know, that I don't know, maybe some of the rougher around the edges 80s country up into modern country kind of stuff. Especially with a compressor on. Let's check that out. So just not a ton of compression going on there, and also a very different effect from the side comp going on at the end of the chain. This is actual squish to your sound. Just hear that extra noise in there, but that would be something like this. So that's kind of does that Brad Paisley thing. Just add single coils to the mix there, and you're just about there with a Marshall amp of all things. He's an mostly Dr. Z guy. I know because I used to own a ton of them as well. Because I was such a huge Brad Paisley fan, I can't play a ton of it, so don't expect a bunch of it. And even the little that I do play, it's not very good. So we're gonna stay on the vintage 30s, and we're gonna go back to those original settings for the more rock oriented stuff, because I think that's what most people are gonna look for out of this amp. And we're just gonna hear what that sounds like with some boosts, a couple of different boosts applied to it. The first one, of course, is Tube Screamer. With some pretty typical settings, level all the way up, drive at 0, tone up a little bit, and without, and with. This is one of the few amps that I actually prefer the Klon with. I think the wider frequency range, the wider Q of the Klon fits better with an amp like this, which is more of an edge of breakup thing rather than that really super gritty Plexi or a JCM 800 thing. So this is what it sounds like with the Klon. Get a lead tone out of there, throw some delay in. Oh, you know what I forgot to add was my usual boost for solo stuff, which takes out a little more lows and throws some more mids in there, and has a couple decibels of just pure volume in there, and that sounds like this. That's cool. With that graphic EQ on, let's hear that again with the Tube Screamer. That's basically that. I think you get the idea. I don't want to keep these running too long, so I'm going to just about call it quits, but that is the JTM45 for you.